This is Long Shots, VSiN's premier golf betting podcast. Here's Matt Brown, Wes Reynolds, and Kelly Bidlin.
Long Shots golf betting podcast here on the VSiN Podcast Network. Matt Brown, Wes Reynolds, Kelly Bidlin coming to you for the Wyndham Championship. Decent little field here as we get ready for the playoffs. Top 70 trying to get in and head on into the postseason here. But quick recap of last week. We talk often about that, the courses are what separates these golfers. And there is going out and playing very well and beating up a course. And then there is what Kurt Kitayama did over the course of Saturday and Sunday. There are two completely different things. If you have not gone and look at his scorecard over Saturday and Sunday, I highly suggest you do so because it is damn impressive. And Wes, I know you are quite happy about it.
Yeah, look, I didn't think I had a chance going into the weekend. I was like, okay, let's see if we can. Let's see if the placement markets, maybe I can squeak out something or break even and just move on to the next week. And then he goes out and shoots 60 on Saturday. He actually
with a bogey.
Bogeyed 17. Yeah, bogeyed 17. Like, there was a shot because the 18th, of course, is a par 5 there at TPC Twin Cities where he might shoot 58. He eventually shoots 60, puts himself in the final group on Sunday. And I thought, well, at least he got in contention. At least we've got some interest here. And then he birdied 6 of the first 8 holes on Sunday. And it's like, okay, I think he's going to win this thing. And then, of course, he had to make it a little bit dicey. But I go back, I think it was the 14th hole on Sunday. The bunker shot that he hit. And it was from about just inside 200 yards. And Matt always talks about on this pod how good these players, like even average players on the tour are. Like, no regular golfer is going to hit that shot in his life. Like, you have to be a pro to hit that. That was 200 yards, bunker shot, and he hits it to 2 feet. And I was like, okay, that's where I started to feel confident. And then he three-putted on 17 and missed a 4-footer. And I was like, well, hopefully Sam Stevens, he's going to have to, hit a bad one. And he did, and he eventually made 5. Kitayama does not lay up on 18, hits it in the bunker, and then saves, basically 2 putts from there. So Kurt Kitayama, well done, led the field in strokes gained approach. So he's actually a Vegas local, by the way, lives here now. He's from Chico, California, but lives here, plays with a lot of the Vegas crew, and puts himself in the FedEx Cup playoffs. So very happy to get that 40-1 home. I'm starting to like this 3M Open. Back-to-back years.
It's awesome.
Been able to hit this thing. I love this tournament in Minneapolis. Absolutely. So go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to step on you, Wes. It was a great win by you. Jake Napa, a little bit of a tease for me, but it was a fun event. And
I thought we were going to go 1-2, whichever order it was going to be at one point, because Knapp was right there, and he eventually finished T3 with Lipsky, Matt Wallace, Pearson Cootie, Sam Stevens, of course, won back at 22 under. So, we talk about approach every week, and sometimes approach truthers are proven right. You lead the field in approach, you're going to be in contention, and Kitayama certainly was. A hell of a weekend. I believe set the record, it was the best in 40 years. Justin Ray, our buddy at the, I forget what company he's with now, but Justin Ray Golf on Twitter said he made 20 birdies this weekend, 20 birdies or better. That's like the best round on the PGA Tour from a birdie standpoint in like 40 years. Yeah. The best weekend over the last 2 rounds, so... Thank you, Kurt Kitayama. Very much appreciate it. If I see you around town, first drink on me, the rest are on you, though.
For real. I think you can afford.
I see him from time to time out at my place, and again, just like I said, they don't play the same game we play. It's unreal to watch him hit the ball. But I mean, dude, a 60 with a bogey. I mean, and then to come out and just basically replicate it in the front 9, like I just was.
Because I thought what was going to happen to him is what happened to Akshay Bhatia, or Bhatia, who was in the final pairing, and then he just like imploded immediately on Sunday.
One of the worst final pairings. One of the worst final pairings I can remember in a while.
They never showed him.
They never had a shot.
They never like showed him. I forget who even the third guy. Oh, it was Kanaya. Takumi Kanaya, who I believe did finish top 10, but yeah, they hardly ever showed Akshay. I think after the first couple holes, it was like, okay, this is done.
Yeah, they had that awkward like Kitayama finishes up, and then you're like, and there's one more group to come still. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot about those guys. Like they don't matter. But I'm with you, Wes. Like we talked about it last week, man. Like this event grows on me more and more every year, and I don't know if it's from it's multiple things. Yes. It suits us well for the guys that we often target, right? Like Kitayama was on my lovable losers long shots list. So if you bet all those guys last week, you got home with Wes. I mean, it's a heavy ball striking course, right? Matt, we've talked about before how much we love a finishing par 5. That checks that box. It's a fun event, especially coming off the British Open. As far as Birdie Fest go, it's way up there for me.
Yeah. Well, what the tournament founders say, birdies and train wrecks is what we love, and that's what they got last weekend.
Yeah, it was. I'm just glad that one of us got home on Kitayama, considering I've bet that son of a bitch like 250 times. I did have a top 20, so I mean, like he at least made me a tiny bit of money, but like obviously I'm still way in the hole with Kurt Kitayama. Like Kurt Kitayama has me buried. At least somebody got home with him whenever he finally gets it done out there on the PGA Tour. But good for Kurt Kitayama, and awesome. It was a fun event. I enjoyed watching it. I thought it was fun.
It's so bad. I'll raise my hand. I did the bad betting etiquette thing of like, sorry, the three of us talk through these tournaments, and often we share one or two bets. So, of course, I did the thing like Saturday or Sunday. I don't even remember which day. I was out at the pool, and I'm like, both of you guys are on Kitayama, right? I'm like, nope, not Matt. Matt wasn't. Sorry, Matt.
No, I wasn't.
Bad betting etiquette.
You weren't as bad as our buddy who appears on the various VSiN programs, including with Kelly and Gil on a numbers game. Sia Najad, he tried to pull the reverse jinx, though, I think, because I think he had Jake Knapp. And he thought that this was over, and it was like, it's not over yet. But I kid see it. So I've had that happen before too, where I've almost kind of put the kibosh on somebody without the intention of doing so. But you never know with these things, and I'm like, there's a lot of water on this course, man, and he could dump one, and I've had that happen to me before. So.
Hey, if Sia was like me, Wes, don't feel bad at all, because that up and down for bogey that Knapp had was clinched the top 5. So we're lucky to escape that with that.
You had a nice score on that, by the way. Yeah. Very, very nice score for you.
Yeah, so that got home, got her up top 10, got home. It was a little small, just ends up being a small, tiny loser for me, basically break even.
Another one of those weeks in which I found myself in a DFS-eligible state, so had some good DFS teams. I know it doesn't really matter from a sports betting standpoint, but like I was able to play all these dudes, right? I had
our list of lovable losers.
Yeah, it's like I played the player pool of like 20 guys that we liked. It's just like you can't play all 20 guys in betting, but you can in DFS, and so it's like I had a nice little player pool of the 20 that we liked, and pretty much everybody. This is the most interesting week though of betting for me in a long time. Every single one of my guys made the cut, and nary a one of them had a snowball's chance in hell of competing. I bet 7 outrights. All 7 made the cut, and they were all like T57 or something. Like they were all like nobody came in contention. Nobody.
You know what's funny? You saying that is I felt like I had more missed cuts this week than I had in a long time. I only had Knapp and Godrup get through. Those are the only 2 I had to get through, and luckily they just cashed bets that I had on them to like make it not so bad. But it's kind of funny you say that, Matt, because I was like, wow, I really sucked this week. Like on Saturday, I'm like, I only got 2 guys left.
Yeah, it was they all made it, and then they all were exceptionally average. They were all like they were all like 2 under for the weekend or whatever, and finished like T57 and T58 and stuff. Just
some of the betting lessons, like we talk about betting lessons, okay, things that we like to preach, right? Like what do you take it for a lesson if you want to or not? But like this is why we say dial back right on the top 20s and matchups and stuff like that, because you can have in these birdie fests where these guys go so low. That can happen to you, right? Like, your guys can be cruising, and you could go 5 under for the weekend. You wouldn't have stood a shot there. I mean, look at what Kitayama did over 2 days. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, so we move on here to the Wyndham Championship, and this field a little bit stronger as we have people trying to get into that top 70 or even move out, of the bubble area as well, maybe move up a little bit further to make themselves feel a little bit more comfortable as we look at the odds board. If you're watching this over on the YouTube, which by the way, it's free, go over to the YouTube channel, click on us and subscribe. You'll see Matt Fitzpatrick. You'll see Ben Griffin, Keegan Bradley, Aaron Rai, Jordan Spieth, Hideki Matsuyama, Bob McIntyre, Akshay Bhatia, Siwoo Kim, Lucas Glover. Jake Knapp, all these guys, Harry Hall. It's a pretty decent little field, actually. And Kelly, as you look at these odds, I mean, it's when the favorite is sitting 20-1, somebody's going to make some money this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'll kick us over to Wes. I mean, I think it's a fun odds board for us to bet into. We're going to get some low scores again, but Wes, I think you've been writing about this sport for a long time, especially for VSiN. This really is, I guess, we're kind of getting the effect of the signature events and some of the new rule changes that are some of the positives that I know some of the things that we've been complaining about for a while, but this is forcing more of these guys to play in a lot of these later tournaments in the year that we just haven't seen really in years past, whether it's the John Deere or the Rocket or this. We just got a lot more guys playing than ever before, it seems like.
And I think that's for a couple reasons, Kelly. Number one, this is a Ryder Cup year, so you do have some bubble boys on both sides, U.S. and the European team. I think the European team looks to be on paper a little bit more cut and dry and set up, even though Matt Fitzpatrick, of course, playing here this week. So you have that. You have to get into the top 70 now to get into the playoffs. It used to be the 125. Now it's the top 70 get you in the playoffs. To get into the 125, though, does keep your card and keeps your playing privileges for the next year. And then they do a priority of, which events you can get in. They have that FedEx Cup fall and, ways to play your way into like the first signature event or two in the 2026 calendar. So there are a lot of different motivations here this week for these guys. Some to just kind of keep their game in shape, some for Ryder Cup, some for FedEx Cup points consideration, because you have a lot of guys that are kind of like, maybe some of these DP World Tour guys that were those top 10 that got PGA Tour cards this year that are kind of maybe in like the 110s or the 120s in the FedEx Cup standing. It's like, hey, we kind of like playing on this tour. We want to stay here for some of the bigger prize money and the high profile events. So, they're here. So there's a lot of motivation. Even if you don't continue on into the playoffs, you do have, once we get into September, you do have a fall schedule where you can still improve your point standings, but you want to stay out on that tour. You don't want to go, have to go to like the Corn Ferry finals or anything like that to try to keep your card where you're not going to get in every event you want to get into. So a lot of different motivations this week.
Yeah, I think the other one I'll just add on. I'll just add on quick is is top 50, right? We're getting, if you hit top 50, so really that might matter more next week than really this week. But top 50, you get check off the box for every signature event next year. So that's I mean, as far as when you're talking about big money up for grabs, that is a major accomplishment this season. So maybe more of a factor for next week, but still, as Wes is going through the numbers, another one to keep in mind.
Yeah, so as we get on here, you go to VSiN.com, you see Wes's write-up each and every week, and, of course, you can go there for the full write-up, full details of the course and the tournament itself. But, Wes, for the podcast purposes here, what are we going to be looking at this week?
Sedgefield Country Club in Greensboro, North Carolina, which is taken over the reins, has hosted this, I believe, since 2008, but it's always been in Greensboro. So it's a par 70, 7131, Donald Ross design, renovated by Chris Spence, who's based locally in Greensboro in 2007, who was the superintendent at Forest Oaks, which hosted the Wyndham for about 30 years. And typical North Carolina type course, tree-lined fairways, pine straw, Bermuda grass throughout. It is a par 70, so only the 2 par 5s and the 4 par 3s. Fairways are pretty narrow here, actually, 29 yards on average, and you get some blind tee shots. Rough about 2.5, but it's that tricky Bermuda rough that can stick to the club face. A little bit of water here, certainly not as much as the 3M last week. 5 water hazards on 6 holes. Not a lot of bunkers, but greens are pretty fast here. Greens are, I don't want to say hard to hit. They're relatively easy to hit, but about 6,000 square feet, 12.5 on the stimp. You can score here. Brant Snedeker shot here 59 when he won the Wyndham back in 2018, so you can very, very much score here. I think, you look at the winning scores, you see into the 20 under range. I think that's about on average. Last year, Aaron Rye, who we were able to fortunately hit on at 35-1, was 18 under. So you know what it is. Hit fairways and be good on approach, and we'll get to that when we get to the stat and the model breakdown. But I think kind of an interesting course. You can get into trouble here, but you're probably going to have low scores. I don't know if it'll be as easy as we saw Twin Cities play, but you're looking at around 20 under par, I think, for the winner.
Kelly, as you started to put things together and take a look at what you found important, what were the stats that stood out to you and how did you weight them?
Yeah, this is basically what stood out to me is, maybe this is another reason why I love the 3M so much, because we switch over to this one. And I'm like, this tournament does nothing for me, and I never win here, I feel like. So anyways, it's a lot of what Wes said, though. It is, look, you're looking for fairway finders, you're looking for accurate drivers off the tee. You got to be, like, there's some tricky fairway bunkers. Like Wes said, the rough is penal this week, so you really got to have guys that are accurate off the tee, and then approach is going to matter, and quality putters. And I just feel a little gross every time I got to look at quality putters, guys. I'm just being real with you. I like the give me the gross Kitayama and Keith Mitchells of the world, great ball striking numbers, and I just got to pray for a good putting week. This is way worse when I got to sift through great putters and try to find a guy who can hit a 7-iron great. Like, come on. But yeah, it's a lot of that, right? And guys are going to go low. I think there is some scrambling, some bogey avoidance stuff you want to look at. I punched in, but like we always say, if we're going to be really going into the 20s, how much of that's really going to come in play? You're going to want guys that biggest things, hit their wedges well, good on approach, find those fairways. I punched in par fours, 400 and 450 yards. It's like, I don't know, 10 of them. Wes probably has that number right in front of him. It's ridiculous. And then I did putting, a little bit of Bermuda putting and 3-putt avoidance. I don't know how you guys do the surfaces. I feel like you guys do it a little bit different than me with the greens. Since I haven't been on true Bermuda in so long, like, I'll kind of split up some of the putting stats and just kind of look at regular strokes gained putting, and I weighed that more than actual guys on Bermuda, just because it's gone back so long, really, since we've seen several tournaments on Bermuda. So that's kind of basically everything I did this week.
Wes, anything different for you?
Not a lot. I started with approach because the last two Wyndham winners, by the way, Aaron Ride, Lucas Glover, all led on approach during their respective winning weeks. So I think you got to be pretty damn good with the irons. In terms of the proximity buckets, anywhere 100 to 175. It's a lot of wedges and a lot of short irons, basically, into these greens. Fairways hit percentage, which is kind of something different. You can also use good drives gained. I think that's a good indicator. But you got some narrow fairways and blind tee shots, so you don't want to get in that Bermuda rough and get those errant shots when attempting to reach the green. So I went fairways hit percentage this week. You can also use distance from the edge of the fairway. That's another with some crossover from an off the tee standpoint. But this is an event where you don't have to take driver very often. Like last week, I think it was good for Kitayama because Kitayama could take the driver because you did have some long holes on that course at the 3M, even though you had wide fairways. With this one, you probably like when Henrik Stenson won here several years ago, he took 3-wood every single time, and no one hits like the 3-wood any better than Henrik Stenson almost in the world back then. So you can take irons, you can take hybrids, you don't have to take the driver necessarily every single hole. From a green standpoint, like Kelly mentioned, I used Bermuda like last 24 rounds, and then I use some 3-putt percentages because you do have the elevated Donald Ross to greens where you have the slopes and multiple runoff locations. So you will get some 3-putts and you will get some bogeys there. So 3-putt and bogey avoidance. Birdie or better just to see who's kind of been scoring low numbers lately with that and can get on runs. Like Kelly said, strokes gained par 4, 400 to 450. And that was pretty much it. Pretty much straightforward. I'm going to do what I did last year because it did work last year. So, why change? So I used basically the same stuff I did. So see if we can land upon another one here in Greensboro.
Yeah, pretty much not much for me to add to that. I mean, it's hit fairways, hit greens, don't 3-putt, and somebody who gets hot with that putter is likely to be up there and do very, very well. You kind of can see even just in the field, right? There's a lot of the bigger hitters didn't even play this event. I know they didn't have to. A lot of people are just taking the week off as it is anyway, but like even some of the other bigger hitters like just didn't even bother with this event because it does play to a very specific skill set in my opinion. And so I think we're going to be talking about a lot of the same dudes here with all of that. And so Kelly, why don't you go ahead and kick things off here? How did your model spit things out and what did you end up doing with your betting card?
Yeah, it was interesting with it being the last regular season event of the year, which I don't really know that means anything from a betting standpoint, but I went a little heavier. I went with 6 this week. I was trying to figure out who to cut down and kick out, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to ride with all 6. Now, it's a little weird for me personally to go that many because I did start with Matt Fitzpatrick. He was number 1 rated out for me. It wasn't even close. I'm going to guess he was for you guys as well.
He was not for me.
Oh, actually. Really? Okay.
Nowhere to be found.
Never mind.
Actually.
Wow. Okay.
He's good on the form, I think, but maybe the stats don't stand out. No, I understand because like he's not really up there on any of the stats that I modeled, but you're just going with the guy that's playing well. And by the way, in full disclosure, I'm on Matt Fitzpatrick as well at around the same price, 20-1. The form is hard to ignore. 4th, 4th, and 8th last 3 events. And he's also won at Harbortown at the RBC Heritage. And there's some crossover here at the Sedgefield. Kelly, continue.
Yeah, thanks, Wes. No, you're good. I'm glad you gave me a minute. I was like, let me pull up my model and see if I'm missing anything here. But no, just last 16 rounds. I mean, he's still. I mean, he's 11th weighted off the weighted approach, 18th weighted putting. I mean, he's one of the better putters in this field. So, anyways, I started with Fitz, and really what he's done recently. Yes, those results have been incredible. T4 at the Open, T4 at the Scottish Open. Now a little bit different, I think, heading back stateside. But before he went over to Europe, it was a T8 at the Rocket Classic and T17 at the Traveler. So he's in really good form right now. Honestly, as good at form as I can remember Matt Fitzpatrick in the past couple of years, really putting it together. So I did start with Fitz, played him 20-1, and then covered with the top 5. This is a guy I really didn't think I'd be back on this week. I think it's the 3rd tournament in a row. I'm just going to keep riding Jake Knapp. You're taking the driver out of his hands. I understand that's one of his better weapons, but he's got a lot of the rest of the game is just cruising right now. And one of the hottest putters right now on the PGA Tour, which is something he's struggling with beginning of the year. He's gained in 7 straight events, I believe it is, the putter. T3 last week, the T22 the Scottish, T21, T4 the Rocket, T27 the Canadian Open. Just consistent finishes now for Jake Knapp. So, look, I think he's had some accuracy issues over the year with the driver, so I don't necessarily mind if he's going to have to take that out of his hands. But we do know overall that is one of the bigger weapons of his game. So don't mind if you won't want to join me on Jake Knapp this week, but I am going to play him still. Harry Hall, I went back to as well this week. Just another... if I think putting's going to matter so much this week, Harry Hall and Matt Fitzpatrick are 2 of the best in the field when it comes to that. And it's another guy. It's just consistent finishes, man. I had to go back on this a bit. T28 at the Open is the worst finish he's had since May 4th. He is just putting together great performance after great performance. So played Harry Hall 47-1 outright market, cover him with an outright. And then a couple fun ones. But Zadenhout I am on this week. If we're looking for approach players and putters, Zadenhout checks those boxes. So 51-1 on Bez. I'm in on him. I cannot remember what year, the last year I bet this guy. I'm about to say his name. I'm playing some vibes on this one. Ricky Fowler. I'm in on Ricky Fowler this week.
Ricky Fowler as well, you son of a bitch. I rate Ricky as well. Dude, he showed up in one of my models, and I'm like, oh, I'm betting him. Like, if I have the chance to bet him, if I have the rationale to bet him, then I'm going to bet him. He was 7th in one of the models that I ran. I'm like, listen, if he's, I don't, that's all I need. That's all I need. Yeah. I need Ricky. I just need Ricky in my life.
So he was like top 10 in one of mine too, and I was kind of like I sit there. I spent way too much time on him, and I was like, I don't know, I probably shouldn't bet him, or I shouldn't bet Knapp. I went back and forth cutting off him or Knapp, and I was like, Knapp's been too nice for me. Just cashed a ticket. I'm gonna play him. And like I said, I don't know what year it was, Matt, that I last played Ricky Fowler. I have not bet this guy in at least 2 years for sure. So in on Ricky, and then the last one, Wes, I think you bet him recently, and when you said his number. Maybe it was last week. It caught my attention. Chris Kirk, 110-1, triple digits. Chris Kirk, putter's really working well for him right now. Gained in 5 straight events with the putter. The rest of the bag's kind of up and down, but then the results are kind of wild too. T14 last week, and then it was a miscut and a 65th of the John Deere, but then a T2 at the Rocket Classic and a T12 at the U.S. Open. So. The upside's there. It just, again, like I said before, it sucks to rely on the good putting guys this week and hope that they can put it together with the rest of the clubs. But Chris Kirk, you've usually been a pretty good iron player. Let's go put it together this week, and triple-digit bomb would be nice to get home. So, yeah, that's my whole card. I got again, Fitzpatrick, Knapp, Harry Hall, Zadenhout, Fowler, and Chris Kirk.
I love it. I love that we both ended up on Ricky. That'd be a fun.
I may have to add that. That might be one I have to dig into a little bit more. But by the way, Ricky's 61st now in the FedEx Cup, so he's probably going to be in that top 70. Because I had to check that really quick while you were mentioning it, and I'm like, is he outside that top 70 or where is he? But. Go ahead,
to your point, Wes, two of those guys, and I didn't really do this. I kind of checked it afterward as well, but Kirk and Zadenhout, I believe, were just on that outside looking in. So if you are looking for a motivation angle, that those two check that box.
Yeah.
Wes, what did your model tell you?
Well, Fitz, we've already mentioned with that crossover. I just can't ignore the form, and I know it's setting us up for disappointment because he doesn't really stand out anything stat-wise. But I've been riding the guy and been saying, man, he's getting closer to winning. He's over that caddy switch now, and he started to play really good golf. 8th in Detroit, 4th in Scotland, 4th at the Open. Take a couple weeks off, and I feel like he's going to win here very soon, whether it's on the PGA Tour or on the DP, as he gets in some of those better fall events that they have over there in Europe. So Fitz at 20-1. When you think also of approach and fairway finders, Lucas Glover, usually right up there at the top of the list, 35-1. Winner here in 2023. He's in the top 30, so he'd be in line to get to the Tour Championship at the end of the year. 5 top 10s this year. Ones that really stood out to me, though, were 5th at the Deer, 9th at the Travelers, and 3rd at the Players, which kind of put a premium on finding fairways. So Lucas Glover, 35-1. I looked at some guys in the mid-range, though, and Kelly mentioned a couple of them that he played, including Harry Hall, JT Poston, Adam Scott, Ricky, Zadenhout. Those guys all make sense. And so I didn't really have one right, I felt, in the middle range. This guy's on the periphery of the mid-range at 66-1. Andrew Novak, who won the first event this year, his first PGA Tour win at the Zurich with Ben Griffin. But Ben Griffin, who's one of the favorites this week, went on to win his first solo event at the Colonial. Meanwhile, Novak, which benefited Kelly, he was on JT, I believe, for the RBC Heritage. Novak lost in that playoff at the RBC. But I mentioned the RBC because there is some correlation with the Wyndham Championship. You have had several players win both events probably over the last 2 decades, and then tons of places, tons of seconds and thirds and fifths at both places. So I think there's a real correlation there. And then Novak, one of those guys, as absurd as it sounds on the surface, still might be in the periphery of Ryder Cup mix. 13th in the standings, and I don't think Keegan Bradley's got his 12 set yet. I don't think this is like Europe where they kind of know basically who their team is going to be. So there's a couple guys here with a lot at stake this week that can make impressions with the captain, Keegan Bradley, by the way, in the field this week. Novak's one of them. Bud Cauley, I'm going to go back to Bud at 80-1, who has cooled off from what we saw in the spring where he had 4 top 6 finishes, including, by the way, a 3rd at Colonial, which is another strong correlation here to Sedgefield because kind of tight lines a little bit off the fairway, but fairways and greens. He's in those FedEx Cup playoffs, but he's trying to get that first PGA Tour victory, and he was 3rd here at Sedgefield. I look back 2012, 13 years ago. I keep thinking Bud Cauley is like that 20-year-old prodigy that we thought was going to be destined for stardom. Hadn't happened due to various injuries, but 3rd in 2012, has another top 10, another top 15 here. So guy that seemingly likes, of course, Bud Cauley, 80-1. And then we've got 3 triple-digit shots this week, but they all kind of popped in various aspects of the model. Yes. Ryo Hisatsune, 110-1, who has cooled from that spring form where he had 4 top 10s, but I think he's a good fit here. T18th at the Heritage. And by the way, the RBC now is a signature event. So you're playing against the best guys. You're not playing against the full field where it's kind of dispersed a little bit. So that's not a bad finish there. T6 also at Colonial, where players are not driver heavy. And I think that's good for Rio here. Victor Perez, I'm going to play him again at 110-1. Moderate success in his first full season, just the 1 top 10. But I looked. Good drive percentage and strokes gained approach. He was top 10 in this field. So this is a guy maybe that can play well, probably needs a little bit of urgency to move up a little bit in those FedEx Cup standings. And a guy that really, he was like almost in every stat I profiled here. And I looked at his price, and I knew it would be big. I didn't think it'd be this big. 175-1, Ben Coles, who I did play in placements last week and ended up, I think, top 20 at a decent price. If you played that, I played top 40. He is 151st, by the way, in the FedEx Cup standing. So he's got to get to the 125, which means he's got to have like a top 3 or 4 finish here to make those kind of points. So getting into the playoffs, unless he wins, is certainly ambitious. But retain that tour card. He's the former Korn Ferry Player of the Year, T20 at the 3M. But by the way, he was 3rd in approach and 2nd in greens in regulation. So that's telling me that the ball striking is there. And can it carry over for 1 week? So Ben Coles closes it out at 175 to 1.
I also on Ben Coles at 175 to 1. That Ben Coles, 8th in one of my models and 6th in another. And I was like, what in the hell is going on here? And as you said, Wes, you go in and you start digging in, and like, you don't necessarily love the like strokes gained total numbers and all of that. But once you started to get into the approach stuff, I ran just kind of like, since this is a tournament that I think it's just going to be more of a skill set of, can you hit fairways? Are you hitting? Can you hit irons? Can you putt? I didn't do a specific round deal. I did like the last 7. So basically this calendar year, right? So I ran it over this calendar year. And then you get to Ben Coles, and it's like 14th in approach, 4th in driving accuracy, 4th in good drive percentage, 5th in distance from the edge of the fairway, 14th in proximity for 150 to 200. Like all these different stats that click on this course. And Ben Coles was there. So I also fall on Ben Coles at 175 to 1. You mentioned Victor Perez. I don't have Victor Perez on the card, but you will see, as I have written down here, I have 2 names in which I will do something with before it's all said and done. Victor Perez being one of those names, Emiliano Grillo being the other name. Grillo actually 1st overall in one of the models that I ran. So I can't just ignore that. So I've got to do something. I don't know if it's a head-to-head. I don't know if I just play him in a 3-ball. I don't know if I'm going to end up just maybe on a top 10 or top 20 or something, but Grillo and Victor Perez are the 2 kind of first off the card guys there.
I only chuckled because Grillo could obviously make the lovable long shots losers list from last week as well.
Yes.
That all 3 of us has bet way too many times.
Yes,
and Cole's actually rated out high for me too. Maybe I have to dabble in the 175 to 1. He was 18th in mine, so I guess that's something I should look at a little closer.
We already talked about old Dickie Fowler there. Got him 58 to 1, so feel good about that one. 4 other outrights for me. The guy who just dominated every version of every model that I ran was Aaron Rai. And so Aaron Rai has to be on the card here at 28 to 1. Not normally a name that I would like to play at 28 to 1, but I mean, you want to talk about green across the board whenever you're running a model for a dude. I mean, this is green across the board, and I'm talking whether I ran the model at BetSperts, whether I ran the model at Rick Rungood, whether I ran the model at Data Golf, it didn't matter. Like Aaron Rai was up there. I mean, this dude was just absolutely pummeling the top 3 or 4 in every single one of those models. Number 1 overall in 2 of the ones that I ran. So Aaron Rai has to be,
he's had a better year than I've realized.
Yeah, he is the lurker. He's a lurker. And I know betting him to win outright, and we talk about win equity all the time, and you look and he's just a dude that like doesn't sniff the top 10 hardly ever. And it's always like just these like 33rd, 17th, 24th and things or whatever. But, a little bit weaker field. And of course it really does fit his game a ton. Mm-hmm. So Aaron Rai
to a T.
You're going to hate this whenever he wins. I'm on Keegan.
Oh no.
Keegan also green across the board. Basically every single statistical category just gets lit up with Keegan. Number 2 in this field over the calendar year in strokes gained total in this entire field. And you just wouldn't think about that with Keegan Bradley, but he is inside the top 20 off the tee, approach. And where was the other thing that jumped off the page?
It's a lot of green, man.
Yeah, and the par 4 birdie or better, obviously the 2 extra par 4s here on this course, considering we're only dealing with 2 par 5s. Keegan also inside the top 15 in par 4 birdie or better percentage as well. So Keegan Bradley makes the card.
Travelers, by the way, a very good correlation, I think, for this event. Where Kelly and I were very happy to see Tommy Fleetwood spill some milk on that 18th as that got us home. And you know what, Keegan, I'm sure is still motivated. And you're always motivated to win, but it's like, Well, God shucks, I got to pick myself now.
Yeah.
You know, I've won again, so and I think he's probably going to anyway. I think he'd be foolish not to because I think he's one of the best 12 on this team.
Wes makes me
talk
feel
about
a little
fairways
bit
and
better.
irons and who's going to make the card. I mean, the Woo obviously is going to make the card. I mean, like fairways and irons, the Woo makes the card. The Woo is third overall in one of the models. Whenever I add in just kind of the like approach putt deal, it's not necessarily 3-putt avoidance, but just like who's kind of like getting closer to the pin after that first putt, and they can just kind of make a tap in. Siwoo's 23rd in this field over the calendar year, which actually moves him up a spot. So I did one model with putting, one model without, and he actually moves up a spot from third to second once I add in the little bit of putting there. And then over on Rick's site, he's third overall in the model that I ran over there. So again, inside the top 5 in every single version of what we're looking at here. And again, like we said, if you're talking about fairways and irons, the Woo is likely going to rate out very, very well. And so that's where I am.
The Woo, by the way, a former winner here and a former runner-up here back in 2021. And like that playoff that had like 10 guys, I think, if I remember, that Kevin Gisner won.
Right? Was it 6?
Yeah, 6, because I remember having Adam Scott. So he was and Russell Henley's the one that should have won the tournament, but that's an aside note. Not that I'm bitter about that, but the Woo certainly does. The Woo does fit here. So Donald Ross and Pete Dye designs, you always got to look at Siwoo.
And last for me is we can add this guy to the list where even if he wins, I'm pretty sure I'm buried. But Ryan Gerard, he could win. I'll still be buried on him. 50-1 on Gerard. Again, just inside the top 12 and basically all versions of everything that I ran. I mean, it's just I don't know. I can't get away from this guy that's like in all of these categories that I love. I mean, the only thing that you don't like about him really is
you don't have any stats from the one time he won.
Yeah, that approach bucket of like 150 to 200, which we know is like very, very important here at this one. He's 93rd actually over the calendar year in that, which is why he's probably not higher in the model. If I'd have not put as much weight on a proximity bucket, which I rarely do, it's just like damn near half the shots come from that range. So that's why I actually did it this week. He'd probably be inside the top 10, but he's just outside of that with like the 12th and 13th because of the proximity stuff with all of that. But everything else, really, really good stat profile for Gerard. And yeah, I mean, he has one recently. I didn't benefit from that, but like maybe I can this week,
I didn't even see it.
Right at number 50 in the official World Golf Rankings, which that is going to be a magic number at the end of the year to get those Masters invitations, because winning the Barracuda gets him the exemption on the tour, but it doesn't get him the Masters invite because it was the alternate event, so they don't give those. But this guy, I got a feeling he's going to continue to play good golf, and he's going to be just fine for all those privileges.
So Aaron Rye, Keegan, the Woo, Gerard, Fowler, Coles for me, and like I said, Grillo and Perez, something's going to happen with those guys. I just got to dig in a little bit deeper on once more head-to-heads get released and different things like that. But I will have exposure to Grillo and Perez in some way, shape, or form. I just don't know exactly what that is at this juncture.
Matt, we'll see if we can make this 2 for 2. Since it hit last week, I'm just going to keep creating the list that applies for each tournament. And here at the Wyndham Championship, your lovable long shots losers that all three of us have bet too many times. Here's your 6-pack for this week: Keegan Bradley, Siwoo Kim, Aaron Rye, Emiliano Grillo, Lucas Glover, and Ryan Gerard. That's a 6-pack of guys that we have all bet several times in over the past year or two.
Yeah,
Gerard's kind of new in 2025 though. He's a new addition.
We'll see if we can get home with all these guys. DFS players out there, just some other dudes that showed up in the model that were fairly cheap. If you want to, kind of like Alex Smalley was some like popping a little bit here and there for me. Rico Hoey was popping a little bit for me. He would be a good guy probably to mix in from a DFS stuff. Kevin Roy. Weirdly,
Kevin
Joel
Roy
Damon
hit a lot for me this week.
Yeah,
I almost played him.
Weirdly, Joel Damon was in a decent amount of the models that I ran, so he would be maybe a guy if you wanted to get in the mix for your DFS plays as well. Of course, all the guys that we mentioned are also fairly cheap, so you'll be able to build a good lineup that you like no matter what. And certainly, if you're rotating the dudes that we talked about today, Nate Lashley, also another guy that has that popped up in several versions of the model for me. Guys, as I mentioned, you can get Wes's full write-up over at the site. VSiN Pro subscriptions right now, you got to take advantage. I think we only got a couple more days of the whole 175 for now to the Super Bowl. So get in there, do that. And you also get the picks page in which anything that we mentioned on this podcast will be listed there, and anything that we add will also be over there on the picks page as well. For Wes, for Kelly, I am Matt. Good luck on all your Wyndham plays.
Volume, Kelly. You suck at this.
Come on, Kelly.
Hey, Matt.
Get the volume.
How you been, man? You don't want to hang out and chat for a while? Like you got somewhere you got a beer or something?
Everybody awkwardly waiting on the outro. There it is.
All right, go hit some bets. See you guys.
The